after last time I messed it up.
Hi guys, welcome back to Monday Night Mythbusters. I'm Dr. Carolyn George from Vita Integrated Medicine, and we have Leslie Harrington, Transformational Coach. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad to have you here tonight. Tonight we've got a topic that isn't probably so huge right now when we're 44 degrees and people aren't really having too many symptoms, but give it another week or two and you will want to know this information. So tonight we're talking about, is it allergies or is it a cold? So ways that you can tell between the two and what things you can do for both of those very common issues.
Yeah, so I will never talk about the weather again in front of people that don't live in Florida. But also living in Florida, we do have the disadvantage of that year-round constant, exposure to different pollens, different molds, the humidity here. We have a lot more, I guess we're vulnerable to some things that maybe some of the people in the north wouldn't be year-round. They would see it certain seasons and
Right.
that's it. So down here, no one ever knows if they have allergies or a cold or they have the flu. They're like, oh, I don't know, maybe it was a flu. So it's really kind of funny. I was thinking about it, and so many people come in here with the sniffles and the allergies. And how do you really tell when it's something that you can be doing something about it, or it's something that you think you're trying to pass a cold and it just never goes away, right? Runny eyes, the nose, there's different symptoms for both.
Exactly. So that is actually a really tough thing to tell for the most part. Sometimes even doctors will make an assessment and be wrong. So if you find it hard to tell, don't worry, that is very, very normal. So generally both are going to have the sneezing, the congestion, the runny nose, sometimes a cough. You're going to feel kind of lousy and maybe head foggy in both, but there are some key differences. So with a cold, you may have a fever, you may not, but allergies, you won't have a fever, even a low-grade one, usually. With a cold, you're going to often have multiple symptoms. So you're going to have the body aches, we call them myalgias. You're going to have the body ache, you might have a headache. It's not just your head that's going to feel lousy, you can kind of feel maybe a little nauseous stomach. So you generally have more symptoms because a cold, the viruses affect your whole body.
Okay.
Which is another little difference.
Is a cold always a virus?
Always.
Okay.
There can be things that are bacterial that can make you have a sore throat or make you have pain in your ears. But one of the ways to tell is that, viral things will tend to give you multiple symptoms. Bacterial things tend to really focus in on that one area. If you've got bronchitis, you've got a cough and a fever. If you've got an ear infection, you've got a sore ear and a fever. If you've got strep throat, you've got a sore throat and fever and sometimes a headache. But you generally don't get all of the other symptoms. Sinus, you're going to have tenderness in your sinuses. It's going to hurt when you lean forward. You're going to have a big headache, and it's going to be gobs and gobs and gobs of thick, green, or bloody discharge. If it's clear, it's a cold, okay? Don't go get antibiotics for what you feel is a sinus infection when it really is a cold, because antibiotics will not help unless it's bacterial.
And they'll hurt.
And they'll hurt, right? They wreck your microbiome. You have potential for allergies. You just do yourself a disservice by doing that. And it doesn't make you get better faster.
Okay, yeah, you got to write it out, right?
You got to write it out.
The when you talk about, I think about sinus headaches, sometimes people, you get that feeling up here, and people immediately think allergies, right? Oh, I have allergies, I'm stuffed right here, versus like a general maybe tension headache or whatnot like that. Like, is that cold allergy? Is that
could be either with that?
Either
so
one.
You can have a headache there. You can have sinus pressure from your allergies. You can have sinus pressure here from a virus, because you have sinuses in your frontal lobes. You have sinuses here in the maxillary area, and you have sinuses, what we call ethmoid, which is right behind your nose. So you have all of these sinuses, and they're in health, they're filled with air. And the point of sinuses is to make your skull not weigh so much. If they were solid bone, your head would weigh even more. So we have these air-filled pockets that help your skull to weigh less. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, right? It's nuts. But when they get filled with mucus and junk, yeah, you can feel pretty terrible. So cold or bacterial infection, one thing. Allergies, another.
So would you, if you were to test for allergies, one, should you, and when at that point would you say, you know what, I need to see what this really is, and how would you go about doing that?
So actually one other little snippet just to, you can look yourself. If you notice that your symptoms of congestion and nasal drainage, sneezing, watery eyes, if that's intermittent, you know, it comes for a couple days and goes, you know, that's something that's going to be more likely to be allergy than a cold, which is usually going to come for a week to 2 weeks and then go. Also, if you take a little light and look inside your nose, excuse me, the mucosa, the lining, in allergies is generally pale. And in infections, cold or bacterial, it's going to be more red and swollen, or it can be pale and swollen. The pale is generally more likely allergy.
Okay, and what about, you were talking about earlier, see, I got a lot of dirt before this. The actual environment. So if you notice that you're going to work and you walk into work and immediately have symptoms all day and you go home, you feel nothing, or vice versa, you could be in a place where you're exposed to the air ducts or something's going through the environment that you're in that's affecting you, that could be beyond simple environmental factors, but it could be mold issues, different type of toxin exposure.
Right. So that's a really good way to kind of tell the difference between the allergies and colds or other infections. So if you are always in a place with the dog and every time you go there you react, yeah, it's probably the dog. And that one's kind of easy to pick out. But sometimes you'll go into, maybe you go into your bedroom at night every night, and every night you're really congested, and in the morning you wake up and you feel terrible, you get out, you go on with your day and you feel fine. Then you should start to think, okay, there may be something in my bedroom that I'm reacting to. And that can be the carpet, that can be the dust or the mold, or different things that are in the curtains, that can be bed mites. There's all kinds of things in your nighttime routine that are really helpful. And bed mites, dust mites are really, 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 really common. It doesn't mean that you're dirty. They're just there. They live with us, so they like to eat our old dead skin. Hey there, John. Hey there, Leda. And so they're around. So they are one of the most common reasons for having that terrible cough in the morning, or really feeling congested and having difficulty breathing at night. It's very common. So doing things like putting on the allergy covers over your mattress and your pillows, and changing your sheets at least once a week and washing them in hot water helps to kill them. But removing stuffed animals, getting big fluffy curtains out of there and keep it really light, or just have the shades that you can just wipe off, the plastic or vertical blinds, that type of thing that you can wipe off and dust really easily. Sometimes you'll notice that whenever you clean house, you start to sneeze and cough and sputter, and then that gives you a clue that there's something in the dust that's bothering you. So there can be lots of physical clues. And mold is something that a lot of people are allergic to, but it's not just mold. So you can be allergic to environmental things, different pollens. The flowers secrete all kinds of wonderful things that help them to spread around the world, but that a lot of people's bodies don't really like them. They tend to stimulate their immune system. So if this is a thing that you notice every spring you have this problem, or every fall you have this problem, that's probably not a cold, that's probably allergies. And then you want to think about doing some testing.
So where would you go about doing testing? So we do testing here, obviously, for food allergies, different sensitivities, things like that. In this case, would you really have to go to that level at first, or would you start with your regular doctor?
So there's a few things you can do first, but if you want to, and I'll tell you about those in a minute, but if you do decide you want to do testing, which is not a bad idea, especially if it affects your everyday life. If you are noticing that your sinus symptoms, the watery eyes, the itchiness, you're always rubbing your nose, if those are things that are going on constantly, then it can be worth being tested for, to find out what you're sensitive to, so that you can then take action. You can either avoid those things, whether it be dust mites or mold or certain pollens. You can wear masks when you go outside, for example. You can use a neti pot to flush them out if you know that they're environmental things. You can clean out all the carpets if you know that it's molds and dust mites. So that helps to give you a place to focus your attention. But there's also ways to kind of minimize your reaction, such as allergy vaccines, allergy shots. So a lot of people find a lot of improvement using using the allergy shots.
Yeah, and you were telling me what I found fascinating earlier was about the difference between the allopathy and the homeopathy, and how they treat allergies in different ways in terms of what they're doing in your body to kind of get your body used to certain exposure and things like that.
So allopathy is like me, conventional doctor, okay? Homeopathy is other practitioners, and they look at things a little differently. So in the allopathic world, if you have a fever, we give you a fever reducer. If you have high histamines, we give you an antihistamine. So in the homeopathic world, they treat an issue with the same thing. So if you had a fever, they might give you something that warms you up. If you have histamine, they're going to give you something that gives you more histamine. So they treat like with like. And so allergists, I don't think they realize this, but they do a lot of homeopathy because they are treating an allergy with a very small, minute amount of that same allergen to help your body become tolerant to that, so it doesn't set your immune system off. Now, in true homeopathy, they're actually diluting those things down thousands of times. So in true homeopathy, there's not even a molecule of the actual ingredient in there, but just kind of the aura, the kind of energy signal of that ingredient is left over.
The triggery.
Yeah, right. So that's a little bit different, but just like or opposites is kind of the different worlds. So allergy shots are more homeopathic, and you can get them shots here on your arm that you have to go in every week and get your shots, or you can do something called SLIT, sublingual immunotherapy, SLIT, and that's some allergists are doing, and that's where you do it underneath the tongue. So it's the same kind of thing, but instead of a shot, you do it underneath the tongue and it gets absorbed into the body.
Okay.
The difference being the allergy shots will work faster, and by faster I mean a couple years. They take a long time. The SLIT, sublingual immunotherapy, takes even longer, 3, 4, or 5 years. But you don't have to go sit in the allergist's office, once a week and get poked. So there's benefits to each.
Percy asks, can it start as an allergic reaction and turn into a cold?
No. If it's going to be an allergy, it's an allergy. Now, that doesn't say that when you're having that allergic reaction that your immune system is kind of caught up in that and then you get exposed to a virus and develop a cold. Yes, that can happen. But the allergy doesn't become a virus and cause a cold. So colds are viral. There's thousands of different viruses that can cause colds, adenovirus, rhinovirus, and then of course there's influenza virus, which isn't a cold, that's influenza. But there's lots of viruses out there ready and waiting to attack the minute we let our guard down. So don't let your guard down is the key.
So we talked a little bit before too about, I had a question that just came up with antihistamine. So if you're using an antihistamine, is it anything like an antacid would deplete you of stomach acid? Would an antihistamine have any type of kind of long-term effect or cause your body to change?
It does. It can. But generally, most people are not going to use antihistamines every day. They're really not meant for constant use.
Okay.
But they can give you a dry mouth. They can give you dry eyes. Sometimes they can affect your stomach because they will decrease your stomach acid. Antihistamines also have GI effects, so you want to use them judiciously. And if you find that you're using them every day, then you need to be doing something else to kind of rid yourself of the exposure. Yeah. And one of the simplest things, quite honestly, people talk about it feels like they're being waterboarded, but really you're not. But if you flushed your nose out, because your nose is your filter for everything in your environment, you should be breathing through your nose, not your mouth. And so everything goes through, and all the little hairs in there filter out these bad things, whether they're viruses or pollens or heavy metals or whatever. Your nose is a great filter. But you sleep on that, or you have it throughout the day, and then that then can stimulate your immune system. So if you just flush it out, you can use some saline which you can get at the drugstore, and it comes in little bottles you can pump. But really a fuller way, a more comprehensive way to get rid of things is a neti pot, N-E-T-I. First word, second word, P-O-T. And it looks, looks kind of like a little magic lantern. And so you get the crystals. It comes in a little package. You reconstitute with distilled water, not tap water, and I'll tell you why later. But reconstitute it with distilled water, or you can boil the water and let it cool, but not just tap water. So then you put it in that, you mix it up, and then ideally in the shower, but you can do it over the sink. You're going to kind of tip your head and put it into one nostril, and then kind of snort, and then it comes out the other side, and then you do it this way, right? We get some out of your mouth as well, but that really flushes it out, right? Okay. And some people just love how they feel because they sleep so much better. They have less allergies.
I love it.
Yeah, right? It's awesome. So that is really the simplest with. There's no medications in that. It's just salt water, which is your kind of natural saltiness of your fluids, and so that one's really.
And it goes and it cleans the back of your throat. If you ever feel like you have a little bit of that nasal drip or tiny, like a little bit of forehead headache, I do the nasals. I'm like, it keeps me always at bay. Like if there's any pollens that bother me, it's always.
Oh, it's and it's available.
That's
to you.
been life changing. Like I started doing that probably 6 years ago.
Right.
And when I first feel it, I'll do it extra times throughout the day. Exactly. And then, otherwise it's just kind of a daily rinse out. Right.
So if you don't have allergies in that particular season, for example, you don't have to do it every day. You just do it when you notice, like if you know fall is your bad time, then you're going to go and you're going to start at the end of August. You're going to start doing it all the time. And then you're going to do it till when you normally don't have symptoms. So do it until when you have cooler temperatures, so you have less of the pollens, less of the molds. If you are lucky enough to live in the north, then you get a freebie season. Usually your winter is your best season, unless you have inside environmental allergens like the molds and the dust mites and things like that.
We're going to get some haters on those.
Yeah, right.
The lucky northerns.
The lucky northerns.
Not right now, right? Not if you live in Buffalo.
Right. No, it's darn cold, and I wouldn't change places with you, honestly, because I love the South, but it does have some advantages being up north. Not only do you get to play in the snow, but you have less allergy issues.
So Cheryl's talking about Vicks Vapor Rub or that in a steamer. So like that. So that's more of a moisturizer where they have dehumidifiers too.
Right. So if you've got a cold, those are great things because that Vicks, the menthol in that helps to shrink the blood vessels in your nose. And so you can breathe easier, okay? That works on kind of the same premise that Afrin does, but Afrin works a different way. And Afrin is not something that you want to use consistently, 3 days maximum, and then you should stop it because you become tolerant to it. Then it causes swelling if you don't use it. It's not truly, they call it an addiction. It's not really an addiction, but you become tolerant to it. So 3 days of Afrin is the maximum, and then you need a break. But your menthol, you can put it on your nose, you can put it in the humidifier, you can, like when I was a child, my parents would put it on my chest. You breathe that in and you clear it up. They actually have it in little things that you can smell. I'm sure there's a little word for it, but like a sniffer that you can smell and helps to open
the inhalers.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can buy that at the drugstore. So all of those things help. All good options. Somebody also asked about the benefits of Flonase. This works best for allergies, can have some improvement for colds too. So if you're not sure, then you can try Flonase. Flonase is a nasal steroid, and what that does is it shrinks all the tissue in there, so it's not so mucousy, you don't get so much of the fluid. But it does not work fast. So it's not like Afrin where within 15 minutes you have improvement. This takes several days to work. So you can't use it one day and then not another, and then 2 days later and expect it to work. You need to use it consistently, at least once a day. You can do 2 squirts in each nostril once a day, or 1 squirt twice a day. Or if you get to a maintenance dose, you can even just go to 1 squirt a day in each nostril. And that can help to alleviate the nose being hypersensitive to all the environmental triggers. But I always say the best thing is to get rid of those triggers, right, by either not being in that environment or washing your nose out or using a mask so it's not getting there. But if it's there already, then Flonase can be very useful. And it's not like you're taking an oral steroid where you bring it into your body, and that can have a lot of very negative side effects. In general, most people don't absorb a lot of the steroid through their nose. So in general, you're working where the problem is and relieving symptoms.
It's not systemically affecting you,
Right.
like a blood sugar and stuff like that.
Correct. But keep in mind with Flonase, you are relieving symptoms. You are not getting to the root cause. And if the root cause is, the dust that's on your drapes or in your carpet, then you need to get to that root cause and eliminate that.
Yeah. So, questions, guys. Anybody here have questions? I know it's a holiday, so I know we're a little bit light on. My sister's traveling, so
Yeah, a lot of people are
because she's
traveling.
like an allergy queen. So when you're watching the replay, a lot of people I see. I have tons of friends, and they're always like, "Oh, it's my allergies," and I'm always like, "What are you allergic to?" And no one really knows.
Right? So get tested. The other thing I just wanted to make a point of saying is that as an ER doc, urgent care doc, one of the things that were the bane of my existence when people would come in with a cold and they would want antibiotics because they would think it would make them better faster, and they don't have time to be sick. The issue is you got sick because you weren't taking care of yourself. That's your body telling you that you weren't getting enough sleep, you're not eating healthy, you're getting stressed out, something is going on so that your immune system is falling over with these viruses that it can usually combat. So rather than saying, I don't have time to be sick, you should be going, I need to be taking better care of myself. What am I doing? You need sleep. You need healthy, nutritious, clean, real food, not processed food or a lot of chemicals. You need stress management. You need to be finding something fun to do and relaxing. You need hydration, right? So these are all things that benefit you so that you don't pick these things up, because those viruses are around us at all times. Most of the time you don't get sick because your immune system's fighting it off. But when you allow your immune system to lapse, when you're not taking care of it, then you get sick. So rather than saying, I don't have time, be preventative, do those things you need to do. If you start to feel like, I'm getting a little sore throat, then you need to sleep, you need to drink some more water, you need to be eating healthy, you need to really be taking care of yourself.
Okay.
So
how did they take that when you said, sorry, no antibiotic?
Oh, they get very upset for the most part because they're used to being just fed antibiotics.
Yeah.
But really it does a great disservice.
Go home and cook a great meal.
It takes me way more time to talk to you about what you can do rather than antibiotics than to just write off a script. And so if your doc is just throwing a script or even just calling one in for you, when you call them and say, I've got a cold, get yourself a new doctor. They're not doing you any favors. They're making it easy on them. They're avoiding a fight. But it's just like a parent with a child. If you know something is not good for that child, you're going to tell them it's not good for them. You're not just going to give them the candy that they want or let them walk into the street, into the car. You're going to explain, right?
Yeah, and unless you're the guy that is too busy
right,
to here, take the candy.
Right, take the candy, right? Here's your script. Go for it. Just don't bug me. So that is about all I've got to say tonight on allergies. If you have any other questions, please feel free to type them in, and we'll look forward to your questions and we'll answer them. And next week we are going to be talking about detox. I am doing, locally, I'm doing a little workshop on detoxification, and so I thought it would be good to talk a little bit about some of the little snippets I'm going to talk about. It'll be a little teaser for the detox workshop. If you're interested at all, just check my webpage or our Instagram post or our Facebook page. We've got information, and I'm doing it with Dr. Jenna, a local chiropractor. So please come join us in person if you're local.
Yeah, and I'm going to actually be out next week because I'm not going to be in town, so I'm going to miss one of my favorite topics. So if I'm anywhere that I can chime in, I will. Oh, yeah. And I might even have, try to connect, but otherwise I might be in the feed asking questions.
Yeah, no worries.
So thank you again, guys. Really appreciate it. If you have any, seasonal allergy people, share this, because some of them really don't really know where to go from it. They just live with it. It's just normal for them,
Don't live with it. There's a lot you can do.
So thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks, Sally. Thanks, Michelle, John, everybody that joined us. Thank you very much. And again, feel free to share, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, guys.